Right. So I obtained, using the spiral method, it's upside down. Using this spiral method or algorithm, I assigned the Hebrew letters to each of the 4 watchtowers, picking out a particular governor and assigning it to that letter on the level of that element. So, for example, we got the spiral following it here. So the governor here is going to be an aleph on the level of fire. And the governor here is going to be aleph on the level of water. The governor here is going to be aleph on the level of air, and then similarly over here, aleph on the level of earth. So this is the path of the fool, and now we have 4 governors from this entire Enochian system that are now assigned to the fool. And so this is the chart that I made, here are the 4 alephs: fire, water, air, and earth, and also the ether that governor belongs to. So now we've got this really unusual sequence of ethers. So aleph is composed of a governor from Zip, from Tex, from Leah, and from Uti. And similarly, Shin is composed of a governor from Deo and Lil and Pop and Nia. This is starting to feel like a crazy labyrinth. It started to open up when I discovered it, and I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to chart all this stuff? So I decided the first thing that I would do is a scrying experiment. So now I have enough information, I have enough names and words of power that I can intuitively travel to an ether. And I know that there are, let's have a look at the map of the ethers here. The standard map of the ethers, and then the map that I decided I was going to use. So here's your standard map of the ethers as concentric circles. I decided, as I said in the other video, that I was going to use this Hive. This was something actually that I came up with from Zen of Magic Squares, Circles, and Stars, Cliff Pickover's book. But I came up with the idea of arranging the ethers in this order sometime around, 2010. But like many things, it went on the back burner and only really emerged as important to my work recently. So I decided, I'm going to take the ethers like this, and I am going to travel to them, starting with Tex. And I've got this other map, right? So I've got this, and I know, okay, Tex. All right, I don't need that one. I've got this map here. So I have a look at Tex, and I see, okay, we've got 4 governors: Dozinal, Advorb, Gemnim, and Tawagla. Remember, when I pronounce it like that, it's not the active pronunciation. But that's okay, because we're just talking about it right now. So what do? I find them. I find their sigils, right? I can cross-map there. Most of them actually all of them are in the Water Watchtower. And then I find their names. So I actually went through the process of using these drawings. All my drawings are tools. I produce them so that I can work and so that I can go deeper. But in any event, so like, for example, we got Dazinal, and I would go and I would look at that. And every time I perform an activity like this, I don't just sort of take it for granted that I know this. I go back and I let my eyes roam over the letters and look at the pictures, because I really want to impregnate my unconscious, or really habituate myself to these associations, so that it starts to be really lightning fast. When I think of an ether, I think of the governors, I think of their sigils, and I can feel the energy pulsing through this set of watchtowers. I mean, these are blueprints in Asaya, if you will, in the physical world, but the energy system itself exists as a kind of a virtual structure. And so the better you are equipped, the more your associations are entrenched, the more you feel it as an actual energy. So as soon as I had really gotten a sense of, I knew the governors, I knew the ether, I had done text with 4 governors, and I also had a look at this map too, just to give myself a sense, okay, using the spiral mapping, okay, which of the trumps are coming in. So we've got the Fool, we've got the Magician, we've got the Chariot, and we've got the Empress. So I've got all this sort of information floating around, and then I close my eyes and I go into a trance, and I allow a vision to appear that unconsciously synthesizes all of that information I just gathered and presents it to me as a vivid image. And what I saw when I did that was first and foremost at wide and open sea, and then a fisherman, very, very skillful, in a boat with a net, and I saw a great cube. I saw that the sea itself from another perspective was like an enormous cube. And then finally, the fisherman is not just catching fish, but also cultivating kind of sea gardens, so like mussel cultivation. And so there is this kind of stewardship going in of the ocean, performed by this fisherman. And I saw that in relation to text. So this becomes my image for the ether text. And I went in turn, and I think in a later video I will talk about all of these images, but I went in turn. So I went from text to Ri'i to Bag. You can see very different images. This one was a volcano with a society living on it that had harnessed the geothermal energy, so somewhat like in Iceland. And then you have the feather of Maat appeared dancing on the top of the sort of geothermal plumes here. So this idea of dancing on a volcano, which has all sorts of different, I guess, connotations as a metaphor. The use of eros as a method of flight. Numerous other aspects. You can even see the path here has a little lamed in it. It looks like a path, but it's also a reference to the Hebrew letter signifying balance. So there are all these elements kind of emerged. Za'ah is fascinating because you've got the sun and the stars and the wheel of the zodiac, and this reminder of how to switch consciousness from thinking like a sun to thinking like a star. And it's actually the same, but from slightly different perspectives. And so this entire hexagram, or a hexagon, is a compendium now, because I scried it, of these little, I guess I want to call them loci, or little zones that I went to using this particular method. And so now I can always think about, and I can analyze or unpack or just try to use this diagram as a reference point for understanding how the ethers are going to play. And one thing I can do now is I look at this diagram, right? Now when I say, oh, text is in this ring here, to me it's not just a little piece of paper with a word in it. Now I can import that vision. So I see the fisherman, and then I see the volcano, and then all the way up here I see the different, there's a scarab beetle, and there's all these images. So now I've been able to transfer the, I guess what we could call the virtual content of this image to the classical image of the ethers. So now I have a very visceral relationship to each of the ethers. The other thing we can do that's kind of cool is, because these are magical sums, you can see that I've done this, I've set it up so as to follow a magic hexagon pattern where all of the internal hexagrams, including this middle-sized hexagram and this large-sized hexagram, they all have a numerical value of 93, so agape thelema. And So the meditation becomes possible to think, okay, as a whole, what is this energy? As a whole, what is this energy? So now, I don't just have 30 ethers. I have 30 ethers in 9 circles. And this emergent quality allows for a deeper psychology to be brought out of and then integrated. So this was the first major step in the project. Once I had figured out the spiral method and so on, the first major step was to go in and explore these ethers and to document them in a visual imagery that allowed me to remember their contents. And now I can use that in any area in which the ethers come up. A good practice, of course, is to have a look here and ask myself, okay, which ether is it? What number is it? So this is Des. I don't actually know off the top of my head what the governors are. I would have to look that up. But through practice and through self-quizzing, I'll eventually be able to just rattle off the governors. And you'll see that will then enable me to see how the tablets, the Enochian tablets are operative and so on. So this is a practice that eventually leads to quite a high level of integration and mastery.